when the pandemic hit, a lot of businesses, small businesses was being affected, especially the restaurant industry. Today, we're sitting down with a restaurateur and a founder of an interesting restaurant in Washington, D.C., to discuss with him how the pandemic has affected his business. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to TANTV Talks, a platform for conversations that matter. My name is Adedayo Fashanu. I'm a journalist and the founder of TANTV. Today, I have here with me an exciting guest. He is the founder and executive chef of Swahili Village restaurant chain. We're going to be really having an interesting conversation because when the pandemic hit, it just took everyone by surprise and businesses had to shut down, lives were interrupted, small businesses were affected, and the restaurant industry was really hit. And Kevin Onyona is the founder of Swahili Village. And, he has an interesting story with the new location in Washington, D.C. So I'm just going to cut through the chase and welcome him on this episode. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm good, Adedayo. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. And it's good to see you healthy and strong. Because we know that a lot of lives has been lost from the pandemic. Business is affected. So much stuff happening due to COVID-19. And with that said, it's a miracle that you and I are standing strong. So I'm thankful for that. So Kevin, how have you been? How have you been personally?
Well, I'm healthy and hopeful. So, that's what you pray for. At this moment, if you're healthy, you are ahead of a lot of people who are struggling with the pandemic.
Yeah.
But and hopeful also because we know that ultimately the pandemic will take its course and we'll be back to our normal business, hopefully. That's why we're hopeful that's what ultimately happens. But clearly we've had a lot of struggles in between, and of course, we're staying hopeful. That's what I would say in a nutshell.
I like your spirit, and I have to fully say that, I personally have been working with you through TANTV, and, just the fact that before COVID-19 hit, you had opened the new Swahili Village restaurant in DC within the diplomatic corridors of Washington, DC. An exquisite restaurant at that. And just right, we were about to launch, then, this DC had to start shutting down businesses and everything else. So can you explain to me what your process was in when you heard about the pandemic and when you had to take precautions within the restaurant, especially as as a new restaurant in that location? And then give us a bit of background with the Beltsville location.
Yes, as you know, we have 2 locations now, with a few others in process being built. But our restaurant in Beltsville has been in Prince George's County and has been received very well for the last 10 years that we've been in Beltsville. And so the feedback we've been getting from our customers, especially those in the diplomatic community in downtown DC State Department, was that there was really a big need for a solid, exquisite, fine dining African restaurant in downtown. And so for the last 3 years, we set our eyes to being able to make that a reality. and started off by scoping downtown, going, looking for locations, and we were very intentional about exactly where this restaurant was supposed to be located. So we took our time and waited until we found the right location, and then we started construction. It was actually a renovation that we had to do. This location is on 1990 M Street, Northwest DC, right on the diplomatic corridor. We're in between Georgetown and DuPont Circle.
So let's really, because I think that this is so newsworthy. It's been the first African fine dining restaurant in the DMV and probably even America at large. You invested a lot in this restaurant. You have made the restaurant. So, I mean, I can speak so much to it, but I also want you to let us in as to the creation process of Swahili, the consulate, because the location in DC is known as the consulate DC. So can you let us in as to the process of that, what the vision is within, for that location and just for fine dining generally? And then let's also just factor in this pandemic into the situation. How have you managed to stay afloat with businesses being affected? What have you been doing in essence to really keep Swahili, the consulate, and even the Bellsby location strong?
Yeah, so the consulate was the word that came to mind when we were trying to address what do we call this restaurant. Clearly, we have a brand called Swahili Village, but then we wanted to sort of separate this one because we were intentionally really going after the diplomatic community at very very focused on this particular group and subgroup of customers. Clearly, because DC is a home to all embassies of the world, and of course 43 countries of Africa are also housed in DC, with their embassies. We have the World Bank there. We have IMF, IFC. All these agencies that do business with Africa. And so we knew surely that if you do this correctly and get the right location, you cannot go wrong. The need was there. And so, like I said, we needed to make sure that the location and that meets all the categories of fine dining and one that can be able to host diplomats, of course, as well as the other diners of DC. Downtown DC is a very vibrant restaurant, destination. Yes. So we got this restaurant that had been there for a while. It was called Vidalia. Vidalia before was a fairly decent restaurant, but in order for us to be able to, speak very powerfully, we had to literally almost redo the entire space, and used a lot of beautiful, textures and decor and art to bring home a really solid space, that is warranty and is worthy of that diplomatic community that we were going after. In fact, it's interesting that our first guest really was the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Yes.
Who we had the pleasure of hosting, and then we launched the restaurant, and literally a week later, COVID hit.
Wow.
And so then we had to shut the restaurant down because nobody knew what was going to happen, and this was a new thing to everyone. Nobody foresaw this, and so. And for the most part, most people are in denial. When we told, "Oh, the city is going to shut down," I was like, "How is the city shutting down. We're just launching a new restaurant. But lo and behold, the mayor closed the city on, I think it was March the 15th. And we had just, literally opened our doors for soft opening.
Yeah.
A week earlier. And we were just beginning to really get the taste and the feel of how this restaurant is going to serve the people of DC. We hosted the World Bank employees for happy hour, which was very interesting. It was very vibrant. And then we had to come to a grinding halt. Yes.
All right. So at that point, right, before we even move forward, talk about the president of Kenya, which is where you're from. You're Kenyan American, and you have this whole immigrant story. I think there's so many facets of your story of success and how you've managed to come up to this point, and then hosting your first guest who did the ribbon cutting, the president of Kenya. Can you just let us in as to what that means for a restaurant owner as yourself, and being an African, being an immigrant as well in America?
Yeah, well, that was exciting and very nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yes.
Because we were literally hosting the head of state and his guests, which is a dream to any restaurateur. But at the same time, very interesting because you're dealing with the embassy, trying to coordinate this. You're dealing with the Secret Service, trying to make sure that everything goes well. You're dealing with vendors. We were also at the same time dealing with the city because we're trying to get our permits to get through to make sure that on that particular day we're able to host him. So yeah, it was very, very challenging, very interesting, but very exciting. And it was such a privilege to be able to, and an honor to be able to, welcome in our space and have him dine with us on that day and pull through a beautiful, beautiful evening for him.
I must say that I am honored and privileged to have been a part of that experience. And something that was so moving for me was the fact of when it was time to take pictures, you were like, no, before anything else, my staff must take a picture, with the president, and you gathered everyone together for this beautiful picture and just to keep as a memory and significance, and that means a lot to that. It just shows that, it just shows the level of what this is. Talking about redefining the future of African fine dining in America, because that's huge. Let's talk about let's talk about African dining, African dining alone in itself in this country, right? How is the African food perceived? What is the African food culture like? Because it's so important, because when you talk about the immigration issues and obviously like the Black Lives Matter movement, being an African, being a Black owner, and then you look at the food scene, it's almost like you have to define who you are in this space to have an edge, right? And you have created a unique space for African dining, and not just dining, but African fine dining. And I think that's so innovative in itself. So what can you share with us about that? What should we know about African food and the African food culture in America, or in the diaspora, if you want to say?
Dayo, that's a lot.
It is.
You have a whole day?
It is.
What I did, Dayo, in the very beginning of my career in the restaurant business was to, first of all, put myself in the kitchen. My training was not culinary art. I wasn't trained as a chef. I had to train myself in my own space to be a chef, because I looked everywhere to see who can actually train you to be an African chef. It's impossible. There are no schools that can actually train you to make African food. Tell me if there's a school where I can go and learn how to make fufu.
You need to start that. You need to start a school like that. You need to start a school like that, because it's needed.
Yeah, so African food is so complex, Dayo, and that's the reason why I know there's been a big challenge in finding fine dining spaces for African restaurants, because you are from the heritage of Nigeria, Dayo, how long does it take you to just make a stew?
Ah,
If your mother was making
yeah,
it, it would be a 4 or 5 hour affair.
5 hours, yeah.
Then you want to you pound your yam and
Yeah.
then eat your, and then so we
Everything
are
is from
very,
scratch. Like the
we make
vegetables, you're cutting it. Everything is fresh from scratch. It's a whole thing.
yes, that's how we cook.
Yeah.
We really are deeply in when we're going into a meal. Africans love to eat good food, and,
Mm.
and it is interesting when you ask average Americans, what do you think about African food? Or the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, it smells, or
Mm.
and it's spicy. Well, like every other foods, you'll find even American foods that some have some order that you might not like, but it doesn't mean every single one of African food smells and are spicy. For
Yeah.
instance, I'm from Kenya. We don't even do spicy food.
Mm.
Spice is a delicacy. People enjoy spicy based on their own ability. You
Yeah.
are in Nigeria, you don't even eat spicy food.
I don't eat spice, but I tell you, a lot of Nigerians do eat spice. But that perception, it's not a single story perception. They have to think like not every African eats spicy food in that sense. Yes.
Yeah, so anyway, I had to go into the kitchen and train myself. I worked with a chef, Sammy Davis, who is now running Milk and Honey.
Yes.
And that's another story, because we had to work something out to get Sammy into create his own space as well. But Sammy and I worked very well to learn how to run a commercial kitchen. I knew that I know how to cook, but now how do you feed 500 people? And that's the part that I took 4 of my years at the first location that we had in Boston, the one up there on the trailer.
Yes.
I took 4 years literally to learn to train myself to be a chef, but on my own brand. And so once I did that, and I was able to pick from every part of Africa, when you walk into Swahili Village, you'll find something that you own as your own. I mean, right from the north all the way down to the south, we have different foods, but we have similarities in all these foods, and all I needed to do was to be able to put it all together so that when you walk in there, you'll find your plantain, you'll find your fish, you'll find your sauce, you'll find your pepper, you'll find your
I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait for people who are watching, if you're watching, to go dine over there. It's just mind blowing. And I think just being a part of it, it's, for me personally, it's just a dream come true, being a part of the Swahili team. But let's really, we're running short on time, but I want us to touch on a couple of things real quick. First of all, when the pandemic hit and we were about to have the grand opening, but we never got to having that happen. We're about to launch. So we're going to talk about that grand opening, but we're also going to, let's go back to what you did when in feeding essential workers, So the fact that you were about to start, do a grand opening, that didn't happen, and of course you had just opened up the restaurant for like a week and a half and having to shut down. You did something. Tell us about that.
Yeah, things were happening so fast, so quickly. It was something that hit the country, and everybody was shocked about how are we going to go about this, and how are we going to manage this? And healthcare workers are out there; they're putting themselves, on the line for COVID, and I had just ordered a lot of food that we had there, because of course when you open a restaurant, your inventory, your first inventory is usually heavy because your anticipation is also high. You don't want to be able to miss anything. So when we were told you have to shut down, the first thing I thought about, I have all this food, and we have all these health workers out there right now who cannot find food because all restaurants are closed.
Yes.
So we started calling, all the hospitals, the police department, the fire department, and told them, look, we are going to be able to, we are going to give away 50 meals a day,
Mm.
hot meals a day to our first responders. And it just felt right that this was the best thing to do. And
Yeah.
we did not realize just how important that was until the phone started ringing through. It was, we were bombarded with calls every day about how much people just appreciate
Yes.
that hot meal in a day. So
Mm.
we took the time, we took about a week and a half, and every day we went and we took meals and fresh hot food.
And you were out there, when everybody was taking shelter, you went out there in person, giving the food too. You didn't just send your staff, you were also out there and putting yourself at risk to do this. So I found that very interesting. And it just shows the qualities of leadership that you have exhibited. And I see personally with Swahili, I kind of see how what you're doing is trailblazing a path for upcoming restaurateurs and all that. So we're going to wrap up with on that note of you giving us resources and ideas on how a young chef can pivot to achieving their dreams like you're doing. But before we wrap up on that note, I want us to talk about the grand opening. What's your vision for this grand opening? Because we still have to do it, Kevin. I keep saying, I think it's so important because, creating this space shouldn't go unnoticed. It shouldn't be invisible. It should be something everyone is talking about because you created this space as, a place for us. And so for people, just a place to dine, to have elegant, luxurious feel, fine dining. And I think every time I'm in the space, you forget the sense of time in there. It's so cozy, and I could go on and on, but this interview is about you. So you tell us about what you are open for the grand opening coming up, and then also, just an advice to upcoming chef or upcoming restaurateurs rather, who are looking to get into the fine dining space.
I would say, look, just look closely. You'll find that it is actually really possible to do this. But you just got to not be afraid because your fear is limiting us. Today, 2020, in the 20th century, we really don't have a fine dining restaurant. In the US, I think that's because our fear has let us behind. So to chefs who are trying to get into the fine dining space,
Yes.
please, we need more of you. Come through. Stop by Swahili anytime. I'm there to be able to work with you, talk to you, and show you how we transitioned from that first restaurant to the second one, and now to the third one at these levels. And of course, we are building in Atlanta, in Newark, New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas.
Yes.
All very, very fine spaces. If you think DC is nice, Adedayo, you will see
Can't wait.
what
Yeah.
that Jersey will look like. But yeah, I think it's time, and the future of fine dining for Africa is now. And actually, it was yesterday. And go for it, guys. The demand is there. There is no reason to be afraid. The future of dining, period, is
Yes.
going to include Africa, whether you like it or not. That is
I,
there.
I have to also I want you to point out some of the steps that you've taken to be COVID-19 safe and conscious, because you've put in some steps within the Swahili Village, restaurants, the two chains. What are some of those things that you've done to be COVID-19 conscious?
So when we were asked to close, we did for a while, and when we closed, we just closed for dining and curbside deliveries. All through this process, we've been working with the health department, with our vendors to be able to see what it looks like to have people come into the restaurant.
Yes.
So we follow very strict guidelines on dining. For the most part, we've still encouraged takeouts, which has improved quite a bit. And what we did with it is first, when you come, you stay in your car. If you take your order by phone, we will deliver your food into your car. Then, of course, we went into phase two of fine dining, which is a 50% capacity. So what we did with that is we were able to rearrange tables in a way that gives you that social distancing. We have worked with our vendors very, very, very well on sanitizing the space. Pretty much every hour we have to clean up. We have masks for everybody. We take temperatures as you come in. We're doing contact tracing. All the things that CDC requires and all the things that the health department requires for us to be able to do. We are doing it to make sure we keep ourselves safe and keep our customers safe. Remember, in all this, we also are victims and we must keep ourselves safe. Our staff must be safe as well.
That's true. That's so true. So let's wrap up on the grand opening concept. It's going to be a virtual and in-person event. Do you have anything to say, one or two things about that? I know we're still in the process of fine-tuning things, but just to let people know some of the things that you think will make this grand opening special.
Well, first it's going to be special because we're probably going to be the first restaurant to launch during COVID virtual. Who right now in the right minds are building restaurants or trying to launch them? No, but we are excited to be able to do it virtually. First of all, because we are trailblazers. That's who we are. We don't shy away from leading. And we're going to go virtual. Of course, clearly right now we're still open 50%, so we can allow some people in there. But to the extent that the wider community would want to know about this launch, we're going to be doing it virtually. The restaurant, you've been in there. We invested very heavily on sound and visual.
Yes.
Yeah, audio and visual. And so we are able to use technology in a way that most people can't because of the way it's a very elaborate and expensive process to be able to have that kind of visual sound, be able to reach people where they can actually be able to almost see every part of the restaurant and be connected to that particular event. And so we're excited about that. But yes, we are going to do it. We're going to do a virtual launch. We're still a date to be announced. I'm sure you would be part of that process.
We're working. Yeah, I must say we have to wrap up now. But Kevin, I must say that it's honestly an honor and a pleasure talking to you today. Also, for giving TANTV the opportunity to also represent you in the media and communication space is such an honor. And I look forward to, being an evangelist for your business, for the Swahili, because I think it's for all of us. You're doing it for the culture, and I'm very honored to be a part of that. Do you have any final wrapping words you would like to share before we go?
No, and I would like to say that it's my pleasure to be able to be part of, work with, young journalists like you who are trying to get out there in the marketplace. Part of our responsibility and social responsibility really is to hold hands, hold people like your hand, so that we can all step up and get onto that space where we have that dream, that American dream.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you to our viewers. Thank you to everyone. Swahili Village is located on 1990 M Street. That's the new location in Washington, D.C. Go check them out. And yes, and thank you for joining us on TANTV Talks. We'll catch you up on the next episode. See you later. Bye.